Chapter 17 is Juvenile Courts. Alright, so some of the learner objectives in this chapter is child saving movements, the doctrine of parents, patriot, 5 ways in which juvenile courts differ from adult courts, how states vary in terms of juvenile courts being transferred to adult courts per prosecution, and 3 major types of cases that are heard in juvenile courts. The single most important Supreme Court case with respect to the juvenile justice, juvenile case that is petition, and one that is non-petition, adherents of the crime control model, and proponents of the due process model of how to see how the future of the juvenile courts. So, juvenile courts from 100 years ago, the industrialization, cities, and crime in the late 19th century changed America culture dramatically. The child savers and the progressive movement. So that children aren't bad, children are a product of their environment. I guess I can relate. I'm not relate, but I guess I can just add on saying that, a lot of people take children's responsibilities and actions and you blame their parents. They're like, well, children do this. It's because they're not getting, taught right from wrong by their parents, which I think is, for the most part, that's true. But in some ways, you could be the best parent and have a kid that ends up doing bad things. Sometimes it's just in their nature. Sometimes they could be crazy. They could end up being like a murderer. But you could be a great parent. So I think to a certain extent, parents can only do so much. They could do the right things for their kids, but they can't always control how their kids are going to act, And I get it, they're kids. They're not fully developed, but you should have a know from right and wrong. If you're killing somebody and just because you're a kid doesn't mean you should get away with it. I mean, you should take responsibility for your actions. I'm not saying it should be as severe as an adult. But they still need to be held accountable for their actions. I mean, unless you're like 1 year old and you do it by accident, it's a different story. But if you're like 14, 13, 15, you by then should definitely know right from wrong. Even by 8 or 9, you should know some basis of right and wrong. And on that, I kind of blame the parents if they're not teaching their kid that. But the kid can also learn that from TV and it's just common sense. So I don't understand how, a parent is responsible for the kid's actions, but to a certain point and to a certain extent. All right, so we have juvenile courts helping children formal proceedings based on civil law, secret proceedings, no jury trial. Adult courts are punishment, the formal proceedings based on criminal law, open proceedings, jury trial. Some thinking points, research the CASA program, the organization of juvenile courts. So juvenile courts as a separate court, juvenile courts as a part of the family, law and action, impact of the structure, the structural differences and the impact proceedings, based on the social environment of the court. All right, and then we have juvenile delinquency, which is theft, burglary, possession of drugs, trying to sell, I guess, the drugs, criminal damage to the property. For status offenses, there's acts that are only legal for juveniles, like run away, possession of alcohol, I guess, drugs, curfew violations. So children who are in need of supervision, they're child victims, neglect, dependency, abandon, lack of education, and the lack of, again, the medical care. All right, and then there's something called the one-pot jurisdiction, which is basically used to commit this, similar serious crimes that are put into the same category or same pot. All right, so for the juvenile court jurisdiction, it's based on upper and the lower age. There's no actually consensus on the age. It's most courts. It is 18. For others, it could be 15, 16, or 17. Operations go up to the age of 18. I've actually seen some courts that do up to actually the age of 21 in some states. Yeah, so actually in Florida is 21, Kansas is 22, California, Oregon, Wisconsin, Montana, they're 24, Colorado, New Jersey is one of them, and Hawaii, crazy, right, New Jersey. It's until the full term of the disposition is ordered. So that's pretty crazy. All right, so juvenile courts can actually be transferred to adult courts by the waivers, the prosecutional waivers, statutory waivers, automatic waivers, reverse waivers, blended sentencing, and only a very small portion of juveniles are transferred to criminal courts every year. So yeah, you could be a kid and be being charged as an adult crime. Happened before, happened again, and yeah, it's crazy. I mean, if it's a really serious crime, they could up that. If you're like 17 or something like that, or 16, they could charge you like as an adult. So I guess if they have like enough evidence, or they see that you clearly understood what you did and you still did it, and you're not taking like the precautions, or you just did it, having full mind of what you were doing, full control, then you could be charged as an adult. But that's basically it for this chapter.